Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar ki jai. Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanamastu.
With deep gratitude, we have once again offered the Nama lotuses at the lotus feet of Bhagwan. Today is called Holi, Holi Festival Day. It is Holi, and it is a very happy celebration day for many people, especially in northern states. In some states, like UP, they celebrate it for 16 days. In many states, only the 28th and 29th, 2 days. Now, today has a great significance. It's a day of joy, where the broken relationships would be mended, a day for forgiving the mistakes of the past and start anew. People would also throw colored powders at each other's face. So everyone's face would be a mixture of colors. It would be difficult to identify people. There are stories, and also the day previous to it, that is yesterday. It's a Holy Dahan Day, meaning they would bring pieces of logs of wood and set them to fire in one place. It is very symbolic of the triumph of the good over the evil. The story behind it is Holika, the sister of Hiranyakashipu, a Rakshas, a demon. Holika had a boon from Lord Brahma. She had a shawl, and whenever she covered herself with it, she would not be burnt by the fire. The fire would go cool for her. So they say that she was bathing in fire every day happily. And now, so many times, Hiranyakashipu, the demon, tried to tell his favorite son to chant his own name, the name of Hiranyakashipu. But Prahlada was very devoted to Shri Mahavishnu. So he kept chanting all the time, Narayana, Narayana. Was very, very, extremely devoted to Lord Narayana. Angered by his own son's conduct, Hiranyakashipu tried to kill him. Being an asura, a demonic behavior is well expected of him. So he tried to kill his own son in different ways, but every time Narayana came to the rescue of Prahlada, because Prahlad was completely drowned in the prema, in the love of Shri Hari. Now once Hiranyakashipu thought he was unable to kill his son, so he would get him burned. So he played a trick. He called his sister Holika. Her name is Holika. He said, you cover yourself with the shawl that you got from Brahma. Take Prahlada, your nephew, on your lap and go into the fire. The fire would not touch you, but it will burn him to death. So the next day, in front of all the people gathered there to watch the show, Holika, with the Prahlada, the little Prahlada, entered the fire. And of course, Prahlada, unmindful of all the tortures given to his body, he was still drowned in the bhakti of Shri Narayana. So he sat there in the lap of his aunt, chanting Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. Suddenly there was a wind, a very strong wind. The shawl that was covering Holika flew. Holika got burnt to death and Prahlada was saved. Much as he tried, Hiranyakashipu, to his horror, saw what happened, the reverse. In celebration of this event, how the virtue triumphed over the evil. That people would make fires, bonfire, and celebrate it with exchange of greetings. And today, that is a holy day, there is again a story, a very interesting story. It's a story of prema between Lord Krishna and Radha. Everybody knows Krishna is dark-skinned and Radha is very fair. So one day, Sri Krishna, the blue boy of Vrindavan, complained to his mother that he was dark-skinned. Why would she give birth to a dark-skinned boy when Radha is all fair? Yashoda suggested, ask Radha to paint your face with color, then you too would look fair. But I believe, of course, they throw colored powder on each other in commemoration of the love between Radha and Krishna. But what truly happened, according to the story, when Radha painted Krishna's face so that it would be fair, it became Radha's face. When Krishna painted her black, it became Radha's face became Krishna's face. Such was the love, such was the glory of the love between the two. that Radha became Krishna and Krishna became Radha. So again, in memory of that, they celebrate, especially in UP, for several days, throwing this color powder at each other and then visiting friends and relatives, mending up, repairing the broken relationships. And of course, there would be a feast for everybody. So now, today is that day, the celebration of the triumph of the good over the bad, over the evil. A very special day, and so highly auspicious. It's also in celebration of the spring season. It's a spring festival. It is welcoming the spring season. So today we have had the gift of grace from Bhagwan to gather here in his powerful shrine and sing his powerful Nama, which is our celebration of this holy festival. Now we shall see particularly a scene that happened in Sannadhi Street House. Some time back, we relived the experience of Bhagwan with some devotees when Bhagwan asked somebody what Nirvana was. The father said, it is a state of bliss. The son said, right thinking and right action, because only that would lead to the state of bliss, Nirvana. Immediately Bhagwan asked the boy, what is right action? The boy said, doing good things and not hurting others either by word or by action, not doing harm to any being. Immediately Bhagwan said with a smile, suppose you are enclosed in a room with a cobra, a poisonous cobra, what would you do? It's a threat to your life. Immediately the boy folded his hands and said, Swami, I would pray to you to help me out of this situation. Bhagwan laughed and then said, do you think Arjuna killed all his relatives? It was Lord Krishna, the divine, forced him to take up the weapon and fight with his own relatives and friends. Some of them were well respected by Arjuna, worshipped by Arjuna, like Pitamaha Bhishma and Dronacharya. Yet he had to fight. Then Bhagwan asked, you think it is wrong on the part of Arjuna? It is at the instigation of Sri Krishna. Why would the divine do that? Why would God, Krishna, do that? When the boy kept quiet, Bhagwan himself said, it is the dharma of a king to uphold dharma, and whatever comes in the way of dharma has to be destroyed relentlessly. So Arjuna's dharma as a king was to uphold, to establish dharma and destroy all that is adharma. And then he said, he quoted a sloka from Bhagavad Gita, which said, like the ocean, which keeps to its boundaries, even when the rivers in full spate bring their waters into the ocean, You don't see the ocean swelling and crossing the boundary. And during summer, some of the rivers would dry up completely, and there would be much, much less water coming into the ocean. But the level of the ocean never goes below. Like this, the state of a Jnani who has become one with the divine, he is ever in a state of fullness, ever in the state of bliss. Worldly desires will not attack them, will not disturb them, they will remain undisturbed. We'll remember now at this point how Bhagwan was wandering in the streets of Tiruvannamalai. There was nobody to give him food or shelter. Sometimes some devotee would invite him and give him a sumptuous meal. But sometimes 3 days, 4 days, he wouldn't get even a cup of tea. In fact, there were days when he would go and beg for a cup of tea and they would throw hot water on him. But then Bhagwan said, all Father's grace. If this beggar got something to eat, it is Father's grace. If he did not get anything at all to eat, it is still Father's grace, Devaki. Everything is only Father's grace. This is what he said, and we burst into tears, and he burst into laughter. This is the difference. So after defining the state of bliss, now this time some other devotee, Shri Vishwanathji from Kuldeep Mangal, that is Agaram, he had come. He was also giving pravachan on Bhagavad Gita sometimes. So as soon as he came, Bhagwan took up this topic, the state of bliss and Nirvana. Immediately he said, after quoting the same sloka to Vishwanathji, he said, Vishwanathji, yesterday Justice Ramakrishna had come here. He put this question to this beggar. He said, he asked me if worldly desires would not enter into the Jnani at all. Is it possible? Bhagwan asked this question in complete innocence, or so it seemed. Vishwanathji said, no, Swami, they have a body, so the worldly desires would touch them, would enter their body, but they could not touch his mind. They have no mind. So it could not bring about any change in them, any disturbance in them. But of course, it would enter the body. Like when it is very stuffy, it's very hot, and you are sweating profusely. Bhagwan also had sweat, profuse sweat sometimes. Then he would use a hand fan to relieve himself from the heat. The body would feel the difference between the summer heat and the cool breeze, of course. And if you offer him some sweet, which is to his liking, he would eat it, he would relish it. But then it would hardly last in his mind. If he did not get anything at all, if there is no hand fan even, he wouldn't bother. I had seen him sit in one place sweating profusely for hours and not doing anything about it. Sometimes he would have shawls and many, many malas around his neck, and there would be profuse sweat. but he would not make any attempt to use his fan. So you see, they would enter their body, the body would be able to feel the differences, but they would remain undisturbed. They would not be touched by his worldly desires, objects. Then Bhagwan said that day, if you cannot get Nirvana in this birth, it is very difficult to attain God, to attain the state of Nirvana. It takes a lot of preparation of the mind. Bhagwan said, that day you serve a person who has attained the state. A dedicated service to a great master who has realized God, has become one with God, ever in communion with God. Honest and dedicated service with love. Now, this day when he was with Vishwanathji, Bhagwan said, Vishwanathji, people practice silence. They try hard to practice silence. But you know what happens? Even for a few seconds, if you keep the mind empty, then the thoughts from the world and from inside, they would rush in. It's very difficult to keep the thoughts away. For ordinary people like you and me, Bhagwan included himself, he said, very difficult for ordinary people to keep mauna, to practice silence. It's possible only for people like Jai Krishnamurti, Raman Maharishi, and other great people. But for people like this beggar, for ordinary people, we have to fill our mind with God thoughts. We have to fill our mind with God's name. This is what my father, Papa Ramdas, taught this beggar. He said, he gave this beggar Ramna and said, chant this mantra all the 24 hours, which means you have to keep the mind filled with Nama all the time. So instead of practicing silence and allowing the raising of thoughts afterwards, one can go gradually about the sadhana by taking up some divine name and filling the mind all the time with the Nama and the Leelas of one's Ishta Devata. Then Bhagwan quoted the two slokas from Bhagavad Gita. He said, Ananya Cheta Satatam Yomam Smarati Nityashah Tasyaham Sulabam Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. Meaning, without giving place to other thoughts, the thoughts other than God thoughts, whoever remembers me, the divine, all the time, to him I am accessible easily. He gets easy access to me. Why? They are always engaged in devotional service to me. And then Bhagwan quoted another sloka which said, Ananya chintayanto mam ejana paryupasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Without giving place to other thoughts, whoever worships me alone all the time, their needs will be taken care of by me. I will provide them with everything that is needed for their life. Not only that, I will protect them also. I will give them all their needs and I will protect them also. Yoga Kshema. You see, Vishwanathji, this is what Lord Krishna has promised. So it is better to fill one's mind with the Nama, the divine name, all the time and not leave the mind empty. Sometimes the effect can be disastrous. If you practice silence for some time, forcefully, at the end of which there will be a rush and race of thoughts. And one feels helpless before these violent attacks of worldly thoughts. So this is forcing the mind to become empty. Instead, the mind should be sublimated. Gradually, it should be cleansed, sublimated to the sublime. God, the sublime mind has easy access to God. God is accessible to the sublime. And what's more, God takes care of all the needs. God protects our wealth also. He gives what we need. He gives us the wealth and protects it also. But here the wealth can be, it's not just the wealth in the ordinary sense of the word, in the worldly sense. Whatever we consider as strength, whatever we consider as valuable, as precious. So you see, this is what Bhagwan was saying to Shri Vishwanathji, and this is for all. So let us all practice the chanting of the name and fill our mind all the time with Nama. Let us also remember the Leelas of Bhagwan and not try to leave the mind empty. It needs a lot of purification of the body and the mind. Otherwise, the result can be disastrous. We have the special gift of grace from Bhagwan, the chance to sing together His name, His divine name. And there have been many, many stories of His Nama's glory. The Nama not only transforms our insight, it helps in many ways with our daily life. So we offer our today's prayers at Bhagwan's feet. Let us beg Him, pray to Him for a very special grace. Bhagwan, we seek your immediate divine intervention to free this world from this cruel Rakshasa like Hiranyakashipu, this tiny virus which is creating havoc in the world for now almost a year. Only you can intervene and bring about the end of this Rakshasa. And Bhagwan, kindly bring back normalcy to the entire world. And we beg you to make this normalcy based upon dharma, dharmic values. Bhagwan, kindly uproot the panic from the hearts of people and stop the rapid spread of the disease. Enter those medicines so that they kill the virus and its strains, other strains. And all those great people who slog through day and night, fighting the disease for the sake of the others. Please give them protection and all-round welfare. And we beg you for a boost to economy and your support to all the measures for its development. And above all, Bhagwan, you have promised in the Gita, if we go on chanting your name, if we go on remembering your name, it is remembering God, and remembering God is truly living in God, and that you would take care of all our needs. And what is more, we will have easy access to you. So please bless us with such a state so that we fill our mind all the time with your Nama and go about our everyday life as a fitting instrument in your hands. Jai Yogi Ramsuratkumar.